I must entreat you to hasten your march as much as possible, or your arrival may be too late to answer any valuable purpose.
Lee didn't want to follow those orders. Lee wanted to be boss.
Washington sends an appeal to Congress to get rid of short enlistments when new recruits sign on in January 1777. My first wish is that Congress may be convinced of the impropriety of relying upon the militia and of the necessity of raising a larger standing army than what they have voted. With the threat of attack on Philadelphia, Congress moves to Baltimore on December 12th and leaves Washington in charge of the army to find a way to turn things around.
Washington was in the hot seat. He was the one who was given command of the army, and it had been a complete disaster.
Washington puts a plan together with his generals, but knows he can only execute it if reinforcements arrive before his army's enlistments expire on December 31st.
When Howe went into winter quarters, he spread his troops across New Jersey in various small cantonments, and one of those cantonments was going to be at Trenton.
To understand what the British are doing across the river, Washington uses a trusted spy to provide him with good intelligence.
Washington learned that every one of those outposts, his troops outnumbered. If they all got together, they would outnumber him. But so long as they were spread out into those cantonments, he was stronger than any of them personnel-wise.
Washington's plan was in place, but where were the reinforcements? I have no certain intelligence of General Lee, although I have sent frequent expresses to him. I cannot account for the slowness of his march. General Lee's division was encamped at Bernardsville, and on the evening of December 12th, Lee and an entourage of officers and guards spend the night at Widow White's Tavern in Basking Ridge, about 4 miles from his division. In the morning, Lee was replying to a dispatch sent to him by General Horatio Gates and uses his response to malign Washington.
This ingenious maneuver of Fort Washington has unhinged the goodly fabric we had been building. There never was so damned a stroke. Entre nous, a certain great man is most damnably deficient.
Overnight, a loyalist had informed the British of Lee's whereabouts, and the 16th Dragoons surround Widow White's Tavern and demand Lee's surrender. With no place to hide, Lee is forced to surrender, and General John Sullivan, Lee's second-in-command, informs Washington of the loss. Our cause has also received a severe blow in the captivity of General Lee, unhappy man. Taken by his own imprudence, going 3 or 4 miles from his own camp and within 20 of the enemy. This news is devastating to the Army's New England soldiers who have served with Washington and Lee through thick and thin and are counting the days when their enlistments expire at the end of the year, a huge problem confronting Washington. Publicly, Washington continues to urge Congress not to depend on the militias and expand the Army. These, sir, are the men I am to depend upon. 10 days hence, this is the basis on which your cause will and must forever depend, till you get a large standing army sufficient of itself to oppose the enemy. Washington also asks Congress to consider a bold suggestion while they are located in Baltimore that would help him make decisions about the army without their approval. It may be said that this is an application for powers that are too dangerous to be entrusted. I can only add that desperate diseases require desperate remedies. Washington expresses his true frustrations and doubts in a private letter to his brother. I think our affairs are in a very bad situation. Not so much from the apprehension of General Howe's army as from the defection of New York, Jersey, and Pennsylvania. In a word, my dear sir, if every nerve is not strained to recruit the new army with all possible expedition, I think the game is pretty near up. Thomas Paine has completed the first in a series of pamphlets called The American Crisis and published it in the Pennsylvania Journal on December 19th, which Washington orders his officers to read to all of the troops.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman.
All of a sudden, the troops' morale get a boost on December 20th, when Sullivan arrives with Lee's troops, which included Colonel Glover's 14th Continental Regiment.
The army was in a depleted and demoralized condition, and there was great cheering when they encountered us and saw that we were there to help bolster their forces towards the end of the year.
At the same time, reinforcements were arriving from New England, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York.
Continental Army doubles in size essentially overnight, and General Washington is thrilled, and now we get to see the fruition of the plan.
Originally, Washington planned a three-pronged attack from 3 different river crossings to converge on Trenton in the early hours of December 26th. His troops are located 9 miles upriver from Trenton, and he puts Colonel Knox in charge of the crossing, who insists on bringing 18 cannon.
They're the foul weather weapon of the 18th century, not affected by the snowstorm, where the shoulder arms, the flintlock muskets, when they become wet, you can't get sparks to ignite wet gunpowder.
Knox assigns Glover's regiment and a Pennsylvania regiment to man the Durham boats and row the troops across the river, while he oversees the loading of the cannon and horses onto the ferries.
I was with the first that crossed. We had to wait for the rest, and so began to pull down the fences and make fires to warm ourselves, for the storm was increasing rapidly. After a while, it rained, hailed, snowed, and froze, and at the same time blew a perfect hurricane.
Early on in the night, my men were able to pierce those sheets of ice with their oars. But as time grew, the polemen were forced to smash and bash at the ice just to clear a path to get across.
The noise of the soldiers coming over and clearing away the ice, the rattling of the cannon wheels on the frozen ground, and the cheerfulness of my fellow comrades encouraged me beyond expression.
Washington learned that the other 2 crossings have failed due to ice clogging the river, which was also delaying his crossing. But this was his last chance to attack Trenton, and he was determined to see it through. The watchword of the night: victory or death.
He didn't get everybody across till about 3 o'clock and didn't actually leave to march to Trenton until closer to 4 o'clock.
This was a tough march. 9 miles across Jacobs Creek. Took them almost an hour to get across that ravine.
I heard His Excellency as he was coming on, speaking to and encouraging the soldiers. The words he spoke as he passed by where I stood and in my hearing were these: "Soldiers, keep by officers. For God's sakes, keep by your officers." Spoke in a deep and solemn voice.
I recollect very well that at one time, when we were halted on the road, I sat down on the stump of a tree and was so benumbed with cold that I wanted to go to sleep. Had I been passed unnoticed, I should have frozen to death without knowing it. But, as good luck always attended me, Sergeant Madden came and, rousing me up, made me walk about.
At the end of Bear Tavern Road, Washington splits his army with Sullivan, taking his troops down the river road to the southern end of Trenton, and Greene and Washington heading to the northern end of town on Upper Ferry Road.
And our army then, with a quick step, pushing on upon both roads at the same time, entered the town.
The Hessians are outnumbered and outgunned and capitulate in less than an hour. Finding from our disposition that they were surrounded and that they must inevitably be cut to pieces if they made any further resistance, they agreed to lay down their arms. The number that submitted in this manner was 23 officers and 886 men. Colonel Rahl, the commanding officer, and 7 others were found wounded in the town. Knowing his troops were exhausted, Washington orders them back across the river with their Hessian prisoners and captured artillery and weapons.
He's in a position